Hi, my name is Scott Brown, and I did an analysis of all the deaths in Connecticut from 1999 through 2011. I received my data set down on data.gov, and you can see I provided a link down at the bottom here. So if you click on that link, it'll bring you directly to where I received my data set. Also, we looked at just the state of Connecticut, so just not nationwide, but I found it very interesting that in the state of Connecticut, deaths from 1999 through 2011 actually have decreased by a significant rate. You can see that on this chart here. If you look at females, they've decreased around 15.7% based off of 2009 deaths versus 2011. Males have also decreased, but only by about 9.5%. So overall, a significant decrease in the number of people who have passed away in Connecticut. And my first question would be, well, why is this? There will be a conclusion at the end of this to tell you what is causing this drop in deaths, but I'll save that for last. Before we get into some of the detail, we can look at a pretty high level looking at basic age groups. So between the ages of 0 and 40, you can see in the top section here, most of the deaths are falling at untimely deaths. So suicides, murders, accidents, and so on and so forth. When you look at the 40 and over crowd down at the bottom, you can see a definite shift from untimely deaths to more cancer and heart disease. Now, even though heart disease was the most prevalent in the 40 plus age groups, if I've added all of that together, it accounts for more than half. 53.27% of all deaths in Connecticut from 1999 through 2011 were related to just heart disease. You can see a quarter of people died of cancer. So when you bring in the all age groups, you can see that the 40 and over crowd really trumps the number of deaths than the 0 to 19, because the untimely deaths drops all the way down to 7%, even though on the previous sheet we did note that it was the most common way to die in the 0 to 19 and the 20 to 40-year-olds. Now, when looking at heart disease, I created a word cloud on all the different things that fall into heart disease and what really drove overall deaths of heart disease. And you can see cardiovascular disease and the two other heart diseases here, ischemic and just general heart disease, which really fall under hypertension, hyperlipidemia, which really come into heart attacks and so on and so forth. You can see, stroke and everything else and all around down here also played a significant part, but much smaller scale than just general heart disease and cardiovascular disease. Now that we've looked at Connecticut deaths at a high level, I've created a dashboard which I'll spend a significant amount of time on to really go through a deeper dive into what's driving some of these deaths and how they're related, because the data set that I used not only split it by gender but also by race as well. So if we look at females here, you can see that it will update the chart and show that decrease in deaths by those different categories. So cardiovascular disease is there, disease of the heart, and then cancer, which is pretty flat going across the number of deaths, and then the other heart disease there. So you can see all heart diseases are really decreasing at a significant rate, and then everything else is really mumble jumble down at the bottom here. But as you can see, a much higher deep level of look at all the different types of deaths that fall under females, and then by males. So males, again, significant decreases in the overall cardiovascular disease. Cancer, unfortunately, has remained flat going across the board, both males and females. Now, if we update the chart and just look at just the black individuals by ethnicity, you can see by black females, we start to see different trends bouncing all over the place for cardiovascular disease and cancer. It really kind of goes up and down. If we include the males into that options as well, so total, looking at total race and ethnicity, you can see it evens itself out. But again, very flat when we look at black individuals or non-white when we're looking at race and ethnicity. You can play around with this at your leisure when looking at just white males, white females, Hispanic females, and you'll start to see some significant trends, especially if you look at this female group of Hispanics. You can see that cardiovascular disease is actually on the rise among Hispanic females versus white females, which is on the decrease. So finally, when we look at I told you there'd be an end conclusion to this. I created a line graph of all of the deaths split out by those top major categories that I created. And you can see that heart disease is really the winner here on how fast that's really decreased. So overall, the rest of the categories that were created, cancer, untimely deaths, influenza or asthma and asthma. You can see liver, diabetes, and kidney, congenital infections, and viral disease. All were pretty flat or actually slightly increased over the last the 11 years that we looked at. What was unfortunate is you see the untimely deaths is actually increased for males as well as for females. But the real winner here and the real driver of what actually decreased the overall deaths in Connecticut was actually heart disease. You can see significant decrease in trend year over year. And it's not just 1 year blip. This is continual decrease overall of heart disease among females as well as among males. Significant decrease. Now, working in the insurance industry within Cigna, I know that the pharmaceutical companies have really driven a lot of medications to help individuals with heart disease. If you think of Lipitor, or you think of Crestor, you think of all the cholesterol drugs and the hypertension drugs, they have been significantly used over the last 15 or so years. So it could be, that individuals are just living longer and are dying of something else, but they are certainly not dying of heart disease as frequently as they were in 1999. Thank you for listening to my analysis. This was a wonderful class, and I enjoyed being a part of this class. I learned a ton of Tableau, and I appreciate all the modules. Thanks again.